Have you ever wondered why, amidst the constant noise of thoughts, emotions, and responsibilities, you still feel lost? As if something deep inside is always searching for answers that never seem to come? There's an emptiness, a silent anguish that grows when we try everything to find meaning, only to drown in even more noise. It's like living in a whirlwind of external voices that drown out the one thing that matters most, our own inner voice. I know what it feels like to be stuck like that, as if life is always moving but never really going anywhere. It's a pain that consumes and spreads, affecting not just our mental state, but also our relationships, our health, and our inner peace. When we're stuck in that cycle of relentless noise, it's not just our peace that suffers, it's everything around us. Our interactions become shallow, our decisions clouded, and our sense of purpose slowly fades. This internal chaos spills over into our work, our relationships, and our overall well-being. How many times have you felt disconnected from people around you, even in the closest of relationships? That feeling of being misunderstood, or worse, not understanding yourself at all. The mind becomes a battlefield where every thought clashes with another, and we end up paralyzed, not knowing which voice to follow. It's exhausting, isn't it? We try to quiet the noise with distractions, social media, endless scrolling, mindless entertainment, but that only numbs us temporarily. The silence we truly need becomes terrifying because we've been avoiding it for so long. We become afraid to face ourselves. This constant state of inner turmoil takes a toll on our physical health as well. We lose sleep, our energy drains, and we start to feel like we're carrying a weight too heavy to bear. That weight of unresolved emotions, unanswered questions, and unfulfilled desires slowly drags us down, making life feel like a series of empty tasks rather than a meaningful journey. Every day becomes a repeat of the last, and we start to question if this is all there is. It's as if we've forgotten how to just be, forgotten what it's like to experience stillness, to feel at home within ourselves. We chase after solutions outside of us, hoping they'll provide the peace we so desperately crave. But how can we find answers in the chaos of the outside world, if we can't even hear the truth within ourselves? The deeper we get into this cycle, the harder it becomes to break free. Yet, there is a way out, a way to silence the storm within and finally hear the wisdom that's always been there, waiting to be uncovered. I remember feeling overwhelmed by this same chaos. It felt as if I was constantly searching for a lifeline, something that could pull me out of the confusion. That's when I stumbled upon the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, and it completely shifted my perspective. He spoke of silence, not as a void to be feared, but as a sanctuary, an inner temple, where all the answers we seek reside. It wasn't about seeking outward validation or external solutions, but about quieting the mind enough to hear the gentle whispers of the soul. Yogananda introduced me to the power of meditation, not just as a practice of relaxation, but as a profound journey inward. He described it as the science of divine communion, a path to stillness where the endless chatter of the mind dissolves, leaving space for the voice of intuition to emerge. For the first time, I realized that the discomfort I felt in silence wasn't because it was empty, it was because it was filled with all the truths I'd been avoiding. Through his guidance, I learned that the silence we fear is actually the doorway to the answers we've been seeking all along. It's in those quiet moments that we can perceive the true essence of who we are, beyond the labels and limitations imposed by the world. Yogananda's words acted as a light, illuminating the shadows of doubt and fear that had kept me trapped in a cycle of confusion. What he offered wasn't an escape from the world, but a way to master it from within. He taught me how to embrace the silence and use it as a tool to dissolve the barriers between my mind and the higher consciousness that dwells within. And in that stillness, something extraordinary began to happen. The questions that had once haunted me began to unravel, and the answers flowed effortlessly, not from outside, but from the depths of my own being. This wasn't just theory or philosophy, it was an experiential transformation. And I want to share how embracing this silence, this inward journey, can change everything for you, just as it did for me. Yogananda's teachings center around a simple but powerful truth. The answers are already within us, but to access them, we must first calm the turbulence of the mind. That's where the practice of meditation comes in. Not as a rigid ritual, but as a gentle process of tuning into our inner frequency. The method he shared, Kriya Yoga, combines breath control, concentration, and a deep awareness of the present moment, guiding the mind to a state of stillness. When the mind is still, even if only for a moment, the soul's voice can finally be heard. The essence of Kriya Yoga isn't just about quieting the mind. It's about training it to transcend its own limitations. Through steady practice, I learned to become an observer, watching my thoughts without getting caught up in their stories. It's like being in the eye of a storm. Everything around you can be swirling in chaos, but you remain anchored in calmness. It's from that place of stillness that true clarity arises. This practice became a lifeline for me. I no longer felt overwhelmed by my thoughts or emotions. Instead, I felt an inner strength, a solid ground beneath the noise. In those moments of silence, I could hear what my heart was truly saying. I began to notice a subtle guidance, a gentle nudge leading me in the direction I was meant to go. It was as if I'd been given a map, not of the external world, but of my inner landscape. And the impact didn't stop there. This inner stillness started to ripple out into every area of my life. Decisions that once seemed paralyzing became clear. Relationships that felt strained began to heal. Even my physical health improved as the stress and anxiety dissipated. It wasn't that the external circumstances changed overnight, but my response to them transformed. The power of silence had awakened a resilience and a wisdom I didn't know existed. This is the true power of what Yogananda taught. By embracing silence and using it as a tool to explore our inner world, we can unlock a source of guidance and strength that no external source can provide. It's not about escaping reality. It's about engaging with it from a place of inner mastery. And the best part? This isn't something reserved for monks or mystics. It's accessible to anyone willing to turn inward and explore the quiet realms of their own being. When I began incorporating these practices into my life, I didn't expect the profound shifts that would follow. The first thing I noticed was a sense of inner calm that wasn't dependent on what was happening around me. It felt as though I had discovered a sanctuary within myself, a place I could retreat to whenever the world felt overwhelming. From that calmness emerged a newfound clarity. The questions that once seemed insurmountable, the doubts that kept me awake at night, slowly began to fade. In their place came a deep, unshakable confidence. This inner shift started to reflect outwardly, too. My relationships, which had been strained by misunderstanding and miscommunication, began to transform. I could listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and connect more authentically. The people around me noticed the change even if they couldn't quite put their finger on it. It was as if I had become more present, more attuned. And in this presence, the energy of conflict dissipated, replaced by understanding and compassion. But the impact didn't stop there. My work, my passions, and my sense of purpose took on new life. With the constant noise of uncertainty quieted, I could focus more intensely, create more freely, and make decisions without the paralyzing fear of failure or judgment. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach began to appear. It wasn't that life suddenly became easy, but I felt equipped, no longer at the mercy of my thoughts and emotions, but in harmony with them. Emotionally, I felt lighter. The burden of carrying unresolved guilt, shame, and anxiety started to lift. It was like peeling back layers of armor I had built around my heart. Underneath that armor was a profound sense of peace and joy, qualities that had always been there, but were buried beneath years of inner conflict. That's what Yogananda's teachings did for me. They didn't change who I was. They revealed who I had always been beneath the surface. This transformation isn't unique to me. It's available to anyone willing to embrace the silence and explore its depths. Because when we quiet the mind, we create space for our true essence to shine through. We become aligned with a wisdom greater than ourselves, and that alignment brings a sense of fulfillment and purpose that no external achievement can offer. This is the gift of the silence, the power to transform every aspect of our being from the inside out. If I could leave you with one message, it's this: the answers you've been desperately seeking are not out there within you, waiting to be discovered. All it takes is the willingness to embrace the silence, to face the stillness that we often avoid. The teachings of Yogananda showed me that the silence isn't empty. It's full of wisdom, peace, and a connection to something infinitely greater than ourselves. I'm inviting you to take that first step. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and just breathe. Allow yourself to be present without expectations. Let the silence guide you. Think about it. How much longer are you willing to live disconnected from your own truth? How much more time will you spend looking outside for answers that only you can truly provide? The change you want, the peace you crave, starts with a single decision. The decision to listen, really listen to yourself. To be still enough to hear that voice within that's been whispering all along. It's not always easy, but that's where the true transformation happens, in the willingness to explore your own depths. If you've ever felt lost, overwhelmed, or unfulfilled, then this practice is for you. And it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Each time you sit in silence, you're taking a step closer to uncovering who you really are and what you're capable of. Every moment of stillness is a victory over the noise that tries to keep you from experiencing the fullness of life. I encourage you to start small. 5 minutes of focused breathing, 10 minutes of meditation. Whatever you can give yourself, give it. This is your opportunity to break free from the chains of confusion and step into a new way of being, one that's centered, aware, and connected to your highest self. You deserve that. Your soul deserves that. One of the most profound realizations I had through Yogananda's teachings is that silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of something far greater. It's the place where the mind and soul meet, where the physical merges with the spiritual. When we become comfortable with stillness, it's as if a new world opens up, one filled with insights, revelations, and a deep sense of peace. But to reach this state, we must first overcome our fear of being alone with our thoughts. In our modern world, we're conditioned to fear silence because it confronts us with everything we've been avoiding. Every unresolved emotion, every unhealed wound, every doubt and fear. But this confrontation is exactly what leads to healing. When we sit in stillness, we give ourselves permission to feel, to process, and ultimately, to release. It's like untangling a knot that's been constricting our hearts for years. And each time we sit in silence, the knot loosens a little more. This stillness reveals the subtle layers of our being. It's not just about calming the mind. It's about discovering what lies beyond the mind. Yogananda taught that beneath our surface thoughts and emotions, there's an ocean of tranquility that's always present, always accessible. But we have to be willing to dive deep. It's in that depth that we find our true selves, not the selves defined by the world, but the self that's eternal, unchanging, and divine. The journey to this inner stillness isn't always easy. There will be moments of discomfort, of resistance. The mind will throw distractions, doubts, and fears at you. But each time you choose to return to the silence, you're reclaiming your power. You're telling your mind that it doesn't control you, that you are the master, and it is the tool. This shift in perception is where true transformation begins. Through this process, I began to experience a profound sense of freedom. I no longer felt chained to my thoughts or emotions. Instead, I could observe them from a place of peace, choosing how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. This is the power of stillness. The power to transcend the mind and experience the limitless nature of our own consciousness. And it's available to you right now if you're willing to embrace the silence. Yogananda often said that true wisdom isn't acquired through books or external knowledges, awakened from within. And the key to this awakening lies in our ability to transcend the limitations of the mind. Our minds are wonderful tools, but they're also the source of endless doubts, fears, and contradictions. To experience true inner wisdom, we must learn to rise above the mind's constant chatter and connect with the deeper, intuitive voice of the soul. When I first started this practice, I didn't fully understand what it meant to transcend the mind. I thought it was about suppressing thoughts, pushing them away until I reached some state of blankness. But Yogananda's teachings showed me that it's not about suppressing, it's about observing. By observing my thoughts without judgment or attachment, I began to see them for what they were: temporary ripples on the surface of consciousness. The real challenge is not to get rid of thoughts, but to stop identifying with them. In those moments of silence, I realized that I was not my thoughts. I was the one observing them, the consciousness behind them. This realization was both liberating and empowering. When we disidentify from the mind, we gain access to a deeper level of awareness, space where intuition, creativity, and insight naturally arise. It's in this state that we can receive guidance from within, guidance that's not tainted by fear or ego, but that comes from a place of pure truth. This inner wisdom doesn't come as a loud voice or a sudden epiphany. It's subtle, like a soft breeze or a quiet knowing. It comes when we least expect it, often during moments of complete surrender. That's why embracing silence is so important. In silence, we create the space for this wisdom to emerge, for the soul's voice to be heard. And as we tune into this voice, we begin to navigate life with a sense of purpose and clarity that no amount of external advice can provide. Each time we transcend the mind's limitations, we reconnect with our true essence. We tap into a reservoir of wisdom that's always been there, waiting for us to listen. This is what Yogananda meant when he spoke of the divine potential within each of us. It's not something we need to seek or create. It's something we need to remember, and the silence is the gateway to that remembrance. It's in the stillness that we find our way back to ourselves. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to start your journey inward, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications so you won't miss any guidance and inspiration on how to deepen your practice. Let's walk this path together, one moment of silence at a time, because the answers you seek are already within. All you have to do is listen.